What's up YouTube? Sideline Eli here, and today we are going to be giving our honest review of XDefiant. So let's get right into it, and I want to start with a little stat breakdown just so we can all see that I am indeed some booty buns. So, as we can see, about 12 hours of gameplay, 1 win-loss, 0.8 KD, a 534 score per minute, and an average skill rating of 2360. So this just kind of shows you where I'm at as a player. Pretty average, right? A little below average on the KD. I was actually looking a lot better before the start of my Saturday stream, but I got absolutely hammered for the last 4 hours of the night and just watched those stats go down, down, down the drain. But I feel like it is useful information in terms of how I'm going to review what I've played and what I've experienced in the last 12 hours. So first things first, I like to get the bad news out of the way, so we're going to start with our cons. And non-gameplay wise, so not really a huge deal in my opinion, but still something worth talking about, is these bundles. So you get to the store for the actual price for the coins, $4.99 get you 500, $9.99 get you 1,000, and so on and so forth. Nothing crazy here. This is pretty standard, pretty standard values across pretty much any game that offers in-game currency, right? Nothing crazy. But what you get for what things cost is a little bit higher than most other games. I don't want to say most other games, because there are some games out there that have some pretty ridiculous skins and things of whatnot. But for 800 coins, so almost 10 bucks, this is what you get. You get a single operator skin for a single character in a faction. This is $10 on the money. One thing I do like about this, though, I do like that you can really move this thing around. So if they ever drop something with like a custom iron sight, you can kind of play with it a little bit, see what it looks like before you decide if you want to buy it or not. I do like that. But anyways, this is what you get for 10 bucks. So I don't see a ton of bang for your buck with these. If you are someone that is really into some of Ubisoft's other games, and you do have actual connections to some of these characters, then I can totally understand why you might think that this is actually a really cool skin. Again, but this is all you get for 10 bucks. But somebody who really likes Samir from Splinter Cell, that might be worth it to buy that for them. If that's really who they're going to run pretty much every game, that might be worth it for someone. But if you're a more casual player and you just kind of like things that look cool and you want value, I'm not so sure that, $10 singular skins are close to them, with the 800s. I'm not quite sure that that's a ton of bang for your buck. And then when you get into the Founders Packs, it's even worse. I mean, for 70 bucks, this is what you get. Cool skin. I mean, it's nothing crazy. I like it. But yeah, 70 bucks. It is, these founder packs are more so to show love. You do get 5K, which is for $49.99 you get 5,750, but it is kind of more so just to show love for them. And I personally did buy the Battle Pass because I played about 8 hours of it and I really enjoyed my time so far, and it's something that I know I'm going to continue to play. You do get 700 coins from the Battle Pass, meaning it will pay for itself as long as you finish it. I didn't mind giving Ubi 10 bucks. It's a free-to-play game. I really like what they have here so far, and I felt that a little support, a little love was worth it. But again, if you're someone that really likes to buy a lot of skins and you're looking for value, I'm not quite sure that it's here, to be completely honest with you. But again, this is just cosmetics, right? If you want them, buy them. If you don't, ignore them. It really is that simple. Another con I do kind of have is, again, not necessarily gameplay mechanics per se, but the gun grind. So I like to grind. I enjoy it. Mastery is something I like to do. The gun level is pretty slow, and it is understandable. 100 levels for mastery and a slow grind. They want to give players something to continue to do, a reason to keep playing the game. There are obviously no score streaks. It's a hero shooter. So it's just something really to work for to kind of keep you engaged outside of just the the gameplay loop itself. But I do feel like for the grind itself, there's really no rewards. I mean, I'm level 67. This was in the battle pass. So outside of getting these three, you're kind of just running, the stock gun, which looks like that. And yeah, it would just be nice to have a little bit more to work for. And they did talk about adding a mastery camo for the, a mastery camo to mastery if you get everything. So I'm sure that they will add some other things to work for along the way. But like I said, outside of just the attachments and then the 3 mastery camos, 50, 75, and level 100 for the weapon, there's no grind. There's really nothing else that you're working through or for throughout those 100 levels per gun. And we got a decent couple of little guns to start with. You have an M16, you have an MDR, M4A1, AK-47, the ACR, which as you can see is my favorite. SMGs, we have the Vector, P90, MP7, MP5, 3 shotguns, double barrel, AA-12, and an M80, M870. 3 LMGs, RPK, M60, M249. 2 marksman rifles, my least favorite, so I haven't even unlocked the SVD, but you also have the MK20, and 2 snipers, the TAC-50 and the M44. So we have a couple of decent primaries to work through. 100 levels per gun. They did crank up some double weapon XP for launch weekend, Memorial weekend, which certainly was a big help. But, it's going to be a long grind, and you're not really grinding for a whole lot. Secondaries, we just have the 5 pistols, a Magnum, an M19, a Desert Eagle, 93, and an M9. Couple of different options here: sticky grenade, proxy mine, frag, flashbang, and an EMP grenade. So that is one thing I really would like to see moving forward, is just more value for your bundles and more things to grind for within the 100 levels of a gun. I don't mind the grind whatsoever. I'm cool with that, but it would be nice to have a little more reward for my effort, my time. Alrighty, but enough of cosmetics. Let's get into some actual issues within the gameplay and just finding a game in and of itself. So if you have played the game, then you absolutely have run into these next 2 issues that kind of tie into each other, and one is the finding a match screen. So if you are in any of these tabs, whether it's Battle Pass, Factions, Loadout, Store Profile, if you're going through any menu and you look for a lobby, this is what's going to happen. So you're going to look for your lobby. Let's say you're flipping through your loadout. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. It's, it's a little bit annoying simply because, if you're trying to edit a class real quick before a game starts and you get thrown into a game instead of into a lobby, now you have to wait for the game to load. You have to load into the game and then change your class in the game and then go ahead and drop into the action. So I guess the lesson is for now, and look, that's exactly what happened. I got dropped right into a game. The lesson for now is if you want to go through any menus, do it before you search for a lobby. Yeah, that's simple. And then this is the other big issue is, and I hate leaving games, we're going to do it just for the sake of it. This happens whether you leave a match, whether you leave a lobby, or when you finish the match. This black screen right here, it is egregiously long, especially if you just want a really intense game. The adrenaline's pumping, you're feeling good, you're ready to keep going, and then you're stuck just looking at the screen for the next 30 to 60 seconds. So it's, some minor things that they are aware of, and hopefully they do clean up sooner rather than later. But overall, that is pretty much the most issues you're going to have outside of actual gameplay mechanics themselves, and we are going to dive right into those right now. Okay, so without a doubt, one of the biggest complaints that I am seeing on Twitter is the hit registration. It is pretty bad. There are several examples across several different, players, streamers. I've dealt with it quite a few times in my 12 hours, every match it seems like, and I'll be the first to say that my aim is not super crispy. I do not have godly aim or anything like that. However, we will be able to see here that the hit registration in general is pretty buggy, and if you felt like you've been hitting shots and they just aren't hitting, you are not crazy, I promise you. So I'm going to start here, overcompensating to my right just a touch, but I still hit a couple shots, and once he stops and comes back to his right, I'm on target at that point. The hit markers are there. It's just like, as you can see, it's like the bullets aren't. It can be very frustrating, you know, especially when you're streaking and then something like that happens. So it is definitely something that is getting under the skin of quite a few players, and something they are very much aware of and they are working on, which we are going to see a little bit later when we get into some of the pros. I'm going to be talking about the dev team, and we're going to be showing quite a few different examples from Mark, and one of those things is that they are very much aware of the hit registration issue, and they know that there are quite a few things that could affect this, and they are working diligently to get this solved so that players can have a much more smooth and enjoyable experience. But personally, for me, that is the main issues I have with the game. One slight thing that was kind of hard to get gameplay for is, I'm sure a lot of you have run into the grenade bug, where it seems like you're just mashing that grenade button and it's just not throwing it. But that's something small that they will hopefully be able to work on and clean up as well. I mean, they're very much aware of it, and, you know, a slew of other minor and more of the major bugs as well. But like I said, I really enjoyed my 12 hours, and I don't have very many complaints that pretty much are going to be addressed, you know, and some of them can even be brushed off as it's preseason still, right? So I see plenty of things on Twitter, and I don't necessarily disagree with everything I see. But a couple of things that I have seen people address for their own sake. The big one right now is a lot of people feel like snipers are too strong. I kind of am on the fence about it in terms of my gaming hot take for the last like 4 or 5 years is that snipers don't belong in 6v6 game modes, and here's why. Most 6v6 action, we're talking small and medium-sized maps. We're not talking like a Warzone or a Battle Royale size map. You know, in a Battle Royale, with how large the map is, you can hit somebody from across the field. That's fine. That's what a sniper is for, right? But when you're talking about bringing it into a 6v6 game mode where in like XDefiant you're playing Arena, or if you're playing Call of Duty and you're on Shipment, systematically, what sniper support are you providing? You're right, you don't actually belong there. That weapon doesn't belong in that situation. So the reason why I don't think they belong in general is simply because it's unfair to either side. I don't think that there's a balance for sniper rifles. They're either as they are, which has a fairly generous one-hit kill zone, and most players feel like they're overpowered because they just one-shot you and wreck you, or you limit that one-hit kill zone, say, to just headshots. And now the thing's a hit marker machine, because, you know, there's plenty of really good players out there, but the average player isn't hitting headies every single time. So then you're going to wind up with a bunch of people that say, oh, well, snipers are useless, all I do is get hit markers and die. So it's super hard for any dev team, I think, to properly balance a sniper rifle in a 6v6 game mode. So I really don't take a side there, because like I said, if it was up to me, I would probably just ditch them from 6v6 altogether, keep them for bigger scale maps and like battle royales. Like, for example, there are a couple of maps in this game, if you're playing specifically Escort or Control, that you can only play those maps because they are specifically large maps for those game modes. Maybe just disable snipers and everything but those game modes. I don't know how that would work. I'm not a game dev, right? But something like that, where if the map can adequately support a sniper, then they should be there. But if it's a game, or if it's a map where it's mainly close and mid-range combat, snipers don't really belong there. They're either going to be at a massive advantage or a massive disadvantage, one, you know, depending on if snipers are considered overpowered or hit marker machines. So that's really my take on it. I think the other really big one is a lot of people feel like the movement is clunky. I think that could be the best way to describe it, where it's not really it's not saying that the movement is garbage or that it can't be good. Clunky just means that, hey, you know, it could get smoother, right? You could smooth it out a little bit, make it feel a little bit better. A lot of people are comparing it to Call of Duty. I mean, and to be fair, Call of Duty has had almost 2 decades to perfect their formula and perfect their craft, so it's going to be kind of hard for anybody to come out the gates swinging as hard as, you know, Call of Duty hits right now in terms of like movement and how it just flows and feels. But I think XDefiant did a really good job, and they have just oodles of potential. And I do think that as you give the game time, things will absolutely smooth out. But I think it's really impressive that, I mean, other than the server crash issues that were really only present on Tuesday, which was launch day, there's really nothing, there's no game breaking bugs, not throwing shade at any other game, saying anyone else does, but there's no really game breaking bugs. It's a fun game. There's plenty of content for now. The battle pass timer is about 30 days, if I remember correctly. So if that is accurate, and that's about when season 1's going to be starting, we don't have much time until season 1, and we already know that they're going to be adding a bunch of content. In fact, as we roll into the pros here, we're going to be talking about Mark Rubin and the devs a little bit, and we are going to provide quite a few different examples of some things that they're aware of and content that they plan on bringing into the future. So with that being said, that is it officially for all of my personal cons through my first 12 hours of XDefiant. So now that we have all the negativity out of the way, right, let's just roll right into the positivity, and let's end this video on all the great things that I found and really enjoyed throughout my 12 hours with XDefiant. Real quick, guys, before we jump into the pros, I just saw a lot of this on Twitter and actually heard it from people that I played with over the weekend. But map voting does exist, by the way. It is right there in the top right hand corner. I know it does kind of blend in a little bit, but yes, you can vote for which map you want or a random map. So without a doubt, the biggest breath of fresh air that everyone was talking about going into XDefiant, and now that we finally have it, no skill-based matchmaking. So if you are level 25 and under, there is a welcome playlist that does feature skill-based matchmaking to kind of let you get your feet wet. You don't even have to play it if you don't want to, but overall it is the mixed bag that we grew accustomed to back in the golden era of Call of Duty, where sometimes you stomp, sometimes you get stomped, and every now and then you do have a really hardcore competitive match that can go down to the wire. But really what it is it optimizes fun. There is no, you don't feel like you have to try hard every single game. Now I will say, when it comes to XDefiant in its current state, it doesn't have the mass appeal of a COD. It doesn't have the name brand of COD, so it doesn't have a huge player base compared to, you know, a Call of Duty. So as a result, there aren't as many casuals around. You know, it's going to be a lot more experienced players, people who like FPSs, you know, more hardcore players. So by default, the lobbies are going to be kind of sweaty, but you can absolutely feel the difference. It's almost like night and day, and it really just, it feels like an old school FPS again, which is a good thing, because that's when they were really at their peak. That's when they were really fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, graphic improvements over time have been incredible and outstanding, and you know, I know a lot of people like some of the new systems in place, but when it came to just relaxing, having a good time, being able to play with friends of all skill levels, you know, the old way was just golden. You know, a lot of people can't play with their friends anymore if they're on different skill levels, because the lower skill guys just don't have fun because of the way the skill-based matchmaking works in, you know, Call of Duty, which is, you know, the main game that a lot of people are going to compare this to. So it was absolutely a breath of fresh air, and I think that moving forward, it's something that if the game does grow to be larger and it does grow a larger casual player base, it'll become even more apparent just how much fun it really is. And I think a lot of people walked away saying that, hey, it does have its issues, but you know, we had a blast. And while we are on the topic of just old school FPS and feel, this is old school aim assist, man. It's not the new Call of Duty, you know, super strong rotational aim assist. It's old school, man. If you don't hit your shots, it's pretty much your fault. You know, a lot of the times, you know, people wonder, you know, was it the aim assist? Is this person cheating? You just don't have to worry about that when this is the type of aim assist that is in your game. You know, it comes down to you. Are you hitting your shots? And we did talk at the end of the con list with the hit registration, and that's been huge. But as they smooth that out and as they fix that, it's going to become more apparent. Just like if more casuals grow into the player base, skill-based matchmaking becomes more apparent. As they fix that, it's only become more obvious that it's on you. And if you're willing to put the time in and just get better, and I'm someone that, you know, I've played FPSs for the better part of a decade, and I have to get better now because the playing field's a lot wider. People are better at these games, and I'm so used to Call of Duty's aim assist, and honestly I kind of been putting Call of Duty down. In fact, I hadn't touched it for 3 or so months before this game even came out. So I was humbled. I thought I was better than I was. And it's something that I'm looking forward to just relearning how to aim properly again. And if you're willing to put the time in, it's super satisfying. And when you do get into a good rhythm and you know you're really cruising, it makes you feel that much better because you know that you are hitting your shots. And it's been huge. It was a breath of fresh air. And another thing, this isn't a yearly title. It's not Call of Duty. It's not Madden or 2K. You know, it's going to have years to smooth itself out, to improve the gameplay, and load the game up with just plenty of content. That's going to be huge. They are going to have to make sure that they are pumping the game with good quality content to keep players engaged and to keep players wanting to come back to the game and to keep new players interested in joining your game, right? So I'm really excited for the potential. I talked a lot about it, you know, leading up to the game's launch, and now that we have it, I'm only that much more confident that as long as they keep at it, that this game's here to stay. It really is. We did talk also in the cons about bundles. The pros to that, you know, any gameplay mechanics. So like DedSec, you could buy them day one if you did not have access to them from the beta and you didn't want to grind the 700k. You could buy them. And you could also grind the 700k. I didn't buy DedSec. I bought the battle pass, yes, but I also just grinded the 700k in game and I unlocked DedSec. So as long as there's no pay to win mechanics, perfectly fine with that. If everything's grindable, I am perfectly fine with that. This is a game that's meant to be grinded because it is free to play. It has to find ways to keep people wanting to play and ultimately producing quality content that people are going to want to purchase. So that is going to be huge moving forward. And another thing that I also really enjoyed, all of the guns felt viable. We talked about the guns in general at the very beginning of the video. Yes, there are a couple of weapons that do feel a little bit stronger than others, like the MP7 is a fan favorite right now. But overall, the only guns that I walked away from saying, I don't really think this is that usable, was the MDR assault rifle, because it's supposed to be a hybrid, you know, assault rifle SMG. And it just doesn't function well as either. It really doesn't. It's just not very good. It's going to need some tuning of some sort. They're going to have to pick one of its hybrid sides to lean a little bit more into. I don't know how they want to fix that, but it's just not very good. And the other one was the marksman rifle. I had some people say they really liked it. I just didn't. I felt it was too slow in a game that it does have a higher TTK, but some of these guys are cracked, man. These guys are beaming. So if you even miss one shot with that thing, you're probably gonna die just off of its rate of fire alone. So I love that the weapon balance is pretty great. Like I said, they have a couple of things to smooth out, but if you want to use the Vector, you can. The P90, you can. M4, M16. You see I'm using the ACR. So that's always a breath of fresh air when it doesn't really feel like there's a guaranteed meta. I mean, like I said, to be fair, a lot of people are kind of metaing the MP7, but it does have damage fall off range pretty bad. outside of its range. I know Insane Gamer 52 did some research on it in the firing range, and he said it dropped like almost in half. And you know, that's kind of how it should work, right? It's SMG, it's close range, so if you're mid to long range combat, you should have no problem smoking an MP7. So a couple of tweaks will be made. I mean, that's a given when it comes to FPSs. Not every gun's going to be picture perfect every single launch or really every single seasonal drop, but I'm very pleasantly surprised and happy with the overall slate. And last but not least, what is huge for me and has been a big issue in my enjoyment of Call of Duty over the past 4 or 5 releases, it's been the maps. I haven't been a fan of them, but when it comes to XDefiant, man, they've nailed these maps. They really did. Some of them look beautiful. Like, I really like how green this map is. It's got some good colors, some things that pop, but that's just, you know, aesthetics. The important thing is how do they flow and just how do they play overall. There really aren't any bad maps, man. A lot of them flow really well. They're well designed, they're well thought out. There's a couple of maps that have a couple of dirty head spots on them, but really not a whole lot of camping going on. It's combat, it's fun, it's engaging, and I just thoroughly enjoy all of the maps. There's really only one map in total out of all of them that I don't like. And it's not even that I don't necessarily like it, I just don't like the way it flows. And yeah, I really am happy with what we got here from XDefiant at launch. You know, some people said there's a lack of content. I get it, but it's also preseason. They talked about how they're going to be implementing plenty of content, and we can take a look at some of that here from Mark Rubin himself. Yes, if you are a fan of the Golden Age CODs, that Mark Rubin. But I mean, we're going to be getting some search and destroy at some point. As you can see, they are well aware of all the issues we talked about on the cons. We did mention earlier mastery camo for the masteries, right? So, I mean, you see the stuff. They have a lot of good stuff planned, and I think this game is going to definitely be here to stay. And let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments below. If you check the game out, definitely let me know what you're thinking. If you have not checked the game out, let me know why you have yet to check the game out, because as we said, it is absolutely free to play and it is cross play. So thank you all for checking this out, and I hope you have a blast.
Zone contested. You might still pull this out in the end, but nah, I don't think so. Capture zone is moving. Allies on the zone.
Engage camo.
Capture zone contested. Zone compromised. We're locking down the zone. Hostiles are winning, Agent. Revenge. I can't condone it. Take and keep that capture zone. Capture zone moving. Updating coordinates. This'll be a fun report to write.